Good morning, Sir Maarten. What's up? What's cooking? September 11th, 2023, episode 91. You know, today, 23 years ago, or 22 years ago, the Twin Towers were taken down in America, and it's always been a day that will be remembered in America. But today I want to touch some topics just before. Last week I was not on air because I was in courts. I had my appeal case, and all I will say to that is it went very well. I will not delve into it. I'll discuss it a little later, but I won't delve into anything out of respect for justice. But let's start off with some notices. I noticed the police reintroduced the bike patrol in town and the surrounding areas, and I think that's a very good thing. The bike patrol also took upon itself, now naturally in collaboration with the police, to start issuing fines for all the illegally parked on the square, on the sidewalks on Front Street, there by Flow and other areas. Seeing that the bike patrol is back in action, this should be able to curb this illegal parking all over the place. I know we don't have all the parking we need in town, but it doesn't take away that people are just parking on the sidewalks because they have to go and do something, come back. Same thing goes for the boardwalk. A lot of misuse of vehicles and motorbikes and all that is on the boardwalk, and I hope that the bike patrol can also make a serious impact there before we have an unnecessary accident. Now, for the last 2 weeks, I would say, a lot of things are happening on Facebook, a lot of things are happening on WhatsApp. Politicians are being exposed. Remember I told you all I was going to start exposing people? Now there seem to be other people and other groups involved, and they started exposing what they believe is corruption or what they believe is wrong in this country. And kudos to all of them, how they do it. I only ask that when you do certain things, you do it respectfully. Remember, your audience is not only adults. Very often, children have access to these things. And when you see these things happening, you start to ask questions and you wonder. I even saw we had a great song. I love the song Woman King. And I was pleasantly surprised with the Prime being in the video. But again, from the context of the lyrics, nothing wrong with it. She brought back her award-winning line, "Stop moving," because that was a line that gave her a little international attention back in the pandemic days. So she brought it back in the song, and I think it wasn't bad. Let me put it so. It wasn't a bad thing. I think it's a nice song. It brought out what needed to be brought out. I won't go into detail of other things that I heard. I don't think they're relevant right now. Maybe later on during elections. But for now, I think it's a great song, and I think we should enjoy the song. But at the same time, Facebook was also loaded with airport nonsense. So we're giving people breakfast for them to forget what's happening and those type of things. People are being fired at the airport. Not one anymore. Now it's like 3 or 4. And nobody's saying nothing. Nobody's doing nothing. You know why? Because they're so busy covering up what is being exposed from them now by the others. And this is going to become a problem. I know the love between the coalition is over in the sense of protecting each other. Campaign started. Campaign is going to dictate who becoming the next target. And as people become targets, I've been a target. From 2010, they came at me, they're still at me 13 years later. So when you become a target, you gotta be careful. Because that bullseye is on your back. And once it's on your back, it's difficult to take off. Because you become a threat to somebody else. That's how I see those things. But I think we need to be careful with how we do things. Because while a lot of us believe that these videos are entertaining, and believe you me, some of them are, these videos are going to be used against people down the road. And I don't know if that's the intention, but if that is the intention, I would say be careful, people. Be careful with what you wish on others, because it might come back to you too. Budget 2024 is delayed, And the amended budget 2023 is also delayed. Now, I listened to the Minister of Finance stating that budget 2023 was delayed because they had to figure out how they're going to pay the police and how they were going to get that money in there. And budget 2024 is automatically delayed because 2023 amended was delayed because there too they had to see how they're going to put the money for the police, how they're going to put the money for the liquidity loans, etc., etc., etc. Lot of talk. Bottom line is it's delayed. But I am more concerned with the delay of 2023 right now than I am of 2024. Why? Because we are using money we don't have. We have been expected to collect an X amount of taxes. And I heard last week, Friday, one of the MPs explaining that, and I want to put it in proper context. It was with GEBE. They said, the Minister of VSR did a great thing by cutting the down payment from 50% to 25% to give the people a breathing space, and they would cover that money with money to be collected yet from the room tax. Again, all fine and dandy, but that money isn't there. So how does budget 2023 get balanced? Because we can amend all we want, but if we can't balance it, we're going to have a problem. Now, we know that the loans will be extended. The question is, by how much? Is it going to be by 3.1% or is it going to be by 8%? And anybody who tell you, oh, no, we got a deal. No, you don't have a deal. You do not have a deal. CFT made it abundantly clear that if the Dutch government gives this loan to Curacao and Aruba, they're going to destroy these countries. Mind you, right now, St. Maarten owes already 1.3 billion guilders, right now, of which close to 320 billion came from COVID and the pandemic and so. You want to add on now another $100 million, if not more, right now. That would be another 180 million guilders. So half of the money we got for the pandemic, we are now going to have to take, more than half actually, we're going to have to take to cover a pension. But what does this do for the budget? That's not clear. What does it do for the budget? And nobody's saying nothing. They're saying, oh, we just have to make a little change up with the monies for the police. That is hogwash. That is hogwash, Minister. You know better than that. And I'm going to call you out on it. Because tell the people the truth what we are facing right now, man. We are in a serious quagmire position. Our backs against the wall and the fellas in front of us got guns. And there is no place we can run. That's the position we are in right now. The Dutch told you, if you don't take the loan, you're paying 8%. 8% of 314 million is approximately 24 million you're going to pay per year on interest, and you're going to pay back over the next 20 years, you'll be paying back about 15 million. So a total of 39 million, Minister. If you take the loan, that other 180 million is going to be added on. So then you're up on 500 million. For that, you're going to pay 3%. That 3%, Minister, is about 15 million. So yeah, you save 9 million. But you know what? Now you're paying 25 million on the payback, because that's your principle. When you add them up, you got more. You got more than you had before with 8%. You have to ask yourself the question, can I afford the 8% or can I not afford it? Can I afford to pay back 24 million or not? That's the question you have to answer. No more, no less. And the pensions of India are coming to that just now. Because the Dutch have to understand that geopolitics can be played more ways than just one way. But Minister, you need to come clean. You need to explain me why you are not standing your ground with CFT's advice and telling the Dutch If you all want it so bad, then you all pay for it. And when I win the Ansari case, take back your money. Because it's the same government in Holland which gives 25 million euros every year to the RST, prosecutor's office and courts, and now telling we, buy Ansari too big to prosecute. So we're going to leave the 1.2 billion embezzler walk. For now, for sure. And we're going to squeak it out of all your locals in St. Maarten. That's the message they're sending. And if that's the message this government wants to accept, then that's for the government's account. Because I for sure ain't part of that nonsense. This is craziness. But then again, when you got a set of jokers making little planes, putting them in the garbage bin, instead of running this country's finances, yes, then this is what you get. This is what you get. I'm ashamed. I am truly ashamed of what I've seen develop in the last week or two. Will the charter change with the new Dutch government, and will the allowed independence as a possible choice without the need of the permission of motherland Holland be good for us? Remember, what's happening now, the VVD is the biggest party in Holland, and they have taken back the law of Bosman, André Bosman's law of 2016, and they placed it into their program, into their governing program or their electoral program. Let me rephrase, their electoral program. But if they win, and the chances that they will be one of the biggest parties is a fact, that means they will take that electoral program and make it a governing program. Because remember, all the other parties in Holland are not real friends of the Antilles. CDA used to be many moons ago a good friend of the Netherlands Antilles. D66, because we had Urine there, was a friend of the Netherlands, the former Netherlands Antilles. But the way this election is panning out, and the amount of people that are leaving politics in Holland, and the new guard that is coming in, is tired of seeing the Antilles keep asking for money and not doing what they have to do. They are tired of seeing foreigners coming into their country and they don't get nothing. That's why also they decided that they're going to change up their manifesto, and they're going to look at two critical things. The VVD I'm talking about right now. Immigration and the cost of living. Because in Holland, asylum seekers are walking in and then they want to bring their family using the right that you cannot separate families. The Dutch are saying, hold on, my country is filling up with foreigners and they are taking the houses and all the benefits that my people should be getting. My people, the Dutch people. And that broke the last government, and they're going to allow it to break the government this time by making sure that borders are well placed and stated this coming in and no more. But they all went a step forward. They said, listen. You know this thing about when we go to St. Maarten, we got to get permit for Rex weken toegelaten, but we still need a permit to work, etc. Well, the same will happen for you when you come up. Right now, you need to have money to establish yourself in Holland already. Because this thing about you going up there and you're going to run off of social welfare, they're done with that. What used to happen in the 80s, the 90s, even 2000, 2010, that done. They are putting laws in place to ensure that that doesn't happen anymore. You don't pay into the system in Holland, where you come to look for benefits for in Holland. That's the new way of thinking. And we're going to have to get accustomed to that. Because the life of London, has passé. It means we now need to agree to how we're going to move forward. Look, the Netherlands have stated now, let's change the charter. that if Aruba, Curacao, or St. Maarten want their independence, they decide that among themselves. We cannot be a blocking stone anymore. Sabre Station Bonaire wanted to, give it to them. That's the Bosman law. And they're bringing it back up front because if they can get rid of us, they'll gladly do so. Don't fool yourself. They'll gladly do so. The problem is, are we ready? And my answer right now is no, we are not. So we got to be careful how we tread in these waters. But again, I do believe that what the Dutch are doing is understandable. You know, I also note that in the VVD's program, they were talking about putting a freeze on rents, taxes for fuel, and income taxes. Now, that would be a great thing if they would say somebody down here say they're going to put a freeze on the fuel clause for GEBE. Now, the Now has said that we want to get rid of the fuel clause. And there's a way to do that. There's a way to do it. And we will explain such as we go along. For now, I just would have hoped that our government would have tried to do things for our hard-working people and not just for friends and family. I told you I will tell you a little bit about my court case. The media wrote a few stories last week and of the proceedings. The proceedings were Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I must say, they were reasonably within context, even though sometimes some critical parts were not correct, which could have led to an incorrect conclusion in this case. An example of that was the prosecutor requested a longer punishment for me. It's totally incorrect. In first instance, they requested a higher penalty than was requested this time around. So just to, I don't want to get into specifics right now, but just that we understand, they did not request a higher penalty for me. They requested a lower penalty for me. In deliberations with my lawyers, I agreed not to get into the specifics of this case out of respect for justice, for the three justices that have our case and are reviewing our case. I had hoped, though, that the journalist of the Daily Herald that sat there all day on Wednesday and heard the pleadings of the Attorney General and the pleadings of our lawyers, Peggy Ann Brandon and Mrs. Brenda Brooks, who, by the way, did an excellent job. There was no mention of them on Thursday. And basically what you saw were the pleadings and the opinion based on their fact findings of the case. That's what it was. Our story, or our presentation of evidence, which was overwhelming, was not spoken about. But it was unfortunate, though, that aspects like trias politica weren't addressed, as they were clearly trampled on during the trial by the Attorney General. On the advice of my lawyers, I ain't gonna delve into it, and I ain't gonna do that for now, because I might do it down the road yet after I had a better tete-a-tete with my lawyers on where we go. And that has to do because of politics. My verdict is not going to be given to me in 3 or 6 weeks. They have asked for 3 months to review my case file, review the overwhelming amount of evidence that we presented, that for one reason or the other, the Prosecutor General didn't see necessary to present. You know, if somebody gives a statement and you pick out one line out of that statement and one line out of another statement of somebody else, and you put that as one sentence, you get a different type of view of a situation. But let me just give you all 3 simple examples. I got a verbal approval of a minister to do something, and I did so. The Attorney General found that that was an onderonsje, something among us, even though it was substantiated with an advice after the fact. And that the underlying documents showed what it was and what it went to. They just took what it went to and said, I falsified documents and I committed fraud. They did not take all the underlying documents to show that I had permission from the government to do such. So they didn't check nothing else. They didn't even look at the government or the heads of departments or ministry. No, they came straight to me because I was their target. You see, when a prosecutor general can state that a decision of a minister is an onderontje, just among ourselves, nothing formal, nothing binding, it means he doesn't agree with the way government does things. So he's going to sit on the seat of government. So you can't do that. Trias politicas doesn't allow that. If you don't agree with something, then you have to deal with such at a different level, not in a court case. You can't make up the rules, the laws, and the policies as we go along so they fit your line of accusations. It doesn't work so. Then the courts found themselves in another difficult situation. And this referred to my trial in first instance, during which statements were made by suspects, as we were 4 suspects in the case. And each of us was tried individually, yet together. So we were all 4 in the courts at the same time, yet each case was an individual case. So if I say something as a suspect, it cannot be used in the case of my wife or the other 2 suspects that were in the case with us. And if they say something, it can't be used in my case or my wife's case. We were having a confusion with that because the statements did not reflect what we said or omitted a lot of things that we said that day in courts in front of the judge. These statements were given to us 3 days before trial at 6:15 in the afternoon, with a weekend in between. So we get them Friday afternoon late. Trial was Monday morning, 9 o'clock. We objected to what was written in the statements, and thank God that it wasn't a verbal onderontje, that the judge put in writing to us that whatever was said in their case, because the cases were not gevoegd, they cannot be used against us. So a lawyer listening to this will understand exactly what I'm saying. Yet, whatever they said was a centerpiece of my conviction for bribery that put me out of Parliament for nearly 2 years now. When this bomb fell, things changed. Everybody started looking at each other. Everybody started smirking, but things changed. So, while the judge said whatever other defendants said in this courtroom could not apply to anyone else than themselves, so their lies could not apply to my wife or I, so we don't need to worry. The judgment, and here it comes now, the judgment was fully based primarily on the very same statements that the judge said could not be used. We handed over these emails on Wednesday to the Court of Appeal, which was clearly unexpected and felt like an atomic bomb had fallen. Many witnesses and suspects in the past were questioned by the RST under very stressful circumstances, allowing for statements to be manipulated to support their witch hunt. All witnesses, including former suspects, questioned in a relaxed atmosphere in March of this year upon our request, testified in front of a judge of instruction in St. Maarten without a room full of RST members sitting behind them, as gave statements as witnesses thus truthful, contrary to statements made by the RST under duress as suspects. Some of them didn't even sign their statements in the past, yet they were used because the RST was trustworthy. And the suspects also were trustworthy when it was in line with what they wanted, and unreliable in the same statement when it was not in line with what they wanted. The statements of the hearing in September 2021 that first of all didn't reflect what was really said, and where many parts of the statements of what was said was omitted because the prosecutor's centerpiece for the conviction request and eventually the judge's conviction in first instance, you need to ask, what was this? And if you ask me if it was intentional, the only thing I can say is I believe so. I've stated this once before to warn them of what was going to come in appeal. They thought I was bluffing. They really didn't even worry, I think, until what happened. The mountain of evidence our defense team presented clearly showed a different picture, and I was convinced the judges clearly started to understand what's really happening. After 3 days of pleadings and showing factual evidence, so nothing that starts with, I believe so, it can be so, we believe it was so. No, we presented facts supported by documentation. There was no room for interpretation in our defense. To be clear, the accusations, for example, of the misuse of the stealth bus were based on accepted procedures practiced since 2000. Established around 2000, prior to 10-10-10, and these were events that took place about 10 years ago. Yet they wanted the people to give an accurate state of account. After all was said and done on Wednesday afternoon, the 3 judges asked us to bear with them, as they will need more than the customary 3 to 6 weeks to render the verdict. And so the verdicts are now scheduled for November 30th, 2023, some 3 months away. It's after postulation, and believe you all, Bunks is postulating. The headline in the Daily Herald of last week that stated that civil servants is in no position, civil servant is not a position you can set aside, means you are a civil servant 24/7, and whatever you do privately or even on or off working hours can be considered done in your function, and for such you can be prosecuted, even if the government didn't feel it was wrong, or if the government told you that's the way to do it. Scary as hell. But this happens when the prosecutor's office or justice believes they can sit on the seat of government. Everything that has to do with the rights and obligations is regulated by law, which is called the Landsverordening Materiële Ambtenarenrecht, the LMA. That's the legal basis of how a civil servant is to conduct themselves. What's allowed and what's not allowed. It's not what you think is allowed or what's not allowed, sir. The Minister of ECYS, he outlines his plans for sports facilities and developments. This is one of these articles that when I read them, it irritates me because it's a load of BS. We are running into a campaign. Campaign has started. Things that were never in the pipeline are now suddenly flying out the pipeline. And, you know, I like the minister, you know. I went to school, the minister knew the minister a long time. I like him. But again, I cannot understand. For 4 years we've been doing these things. Now suddenly they're popping out of the pipeline. Speaking at a committee for education last week, Minister Samuel told Parliament that the ministry is seeking to further develop its sports facilities and encourage the utilization of public spaces for sports and fitness. Specifically, the football field and the athletic track at Raoul English Sports Complex are due to be replaced through the approval of capital investment. You serious? Man, you have the in-year issue. You don't got the cent to wipe your backside, but you're talking about capital injection? You have the nerve to say this? And you're going on now for months. Didn't you and the finance minister don't talk? He didn't tell you there will be no capital investments because they can't afford it right now. I mean, please, man, come on, man. You know, You talk about the Hoselier Cooper Ball Park, L.B. Scott Auditorium, and Melford Hazel will be repaired through the National Recovery Project Bureau and Trust Fund. Again, you talk about things without a timeline. Melford Hazel can be used. All you gotta do is safeguard the people's safety so they can work down there, sir. That's why it's closed. Or you forget that. Man, come on, man. Get serious. You know, listen. You're not in the bakery, sir. That hot air is normally in the bakery. Leave it there, for God's sakes, man. The minister talks about objectives related to ethics, values, and moral development. With this objective, the ministry is engaging with sports organizations in the development of child protection policies based on the ministry's guidelines. Minister, you telling me you have guidelines for child protection? I need you to listen to what you're saying, sir. You remember what happened 2 weeks ago? Okay, we're going to talk about that just now. We're going to talk about what happened 2 weeks ago. And then I want to know where those guidelines be and where the child protection is. Because child protection is not only in sports, sir. It's also in education because they combine with each other. Training for coaches will be developed and executed. The ministry is also in discussion with local organizations to increase media coverage of athletes, and organizations locally and internationally. So, this is hogwash. We have a young man here that trains basketball and gets scholarship to get his kids abroad to play ball. Go to school and play ball. We even have some of them doing it with baseball, I think Pony League. What have you done for them? What have you actually done for them? I know one of them even asked for some land to build a gym because he had the finances to build a gym. But he didn't get land. The land was given to the brother of somebody. All within the family. You see, people, like I told you, I don't get into name calling. But please, don't ask me to go there because if I go there, it's going to be a serious problem. I am tired, though, of this hogwash. This is BS, people. This is what you're doing, sir, is you're insulting the intelligence of the people of Maarten. Don't write articles that you have no clue what's written. Don't do that. I know you belong to the special group of literacy. I saw that meme. Stop giving them more material to do it. You know, I was surprised. He says, listen, I want to promote physical activity among the companies. I agree with you. I have seen very often the companies themselves. They do volleyball, they do football, they do basketball. And if government wants to have a movement where companies really, not once every 6 months do this, but maybe once a week, rent locations around, give them a little tax incentive. Nothing is for nothing in this world, so you don't work for free, you work for a salary. Businesses, when they start to invest in their people, they need an incentive. Because right now, the economics of the country is not an incentive. It's not working in their best advantage. So, again, we need to understand that nothing will go the way we believe it's going to go. Telling them what you're going to do, they're not interested in that anymore. They've been listening to hot air for 4 years. Longest serving hot air government. That's going to be y'all's title. Stop moving. The prime is here. That's all you. That's your reflection. So please, you know, I really don't know what all needs to happen anymore. But the bottom line, Minister, in your whole article, and I wrote some of it, where the money coming from? How much additional money are you getting on your budget? Because if you ain't getting more money, you can't do more than what you're doing right now. You honestly can't. Remember you were saying you had a cent for fuel and all kind of thing. Where's the money, man? Where is the money? You can't answer that. I know that. But that's the problem we have here. Are we truly hurricane ready? When Hurricane Lee was forming, a lot of people got concerned. I was a little concerned, but I knew it was going to go north. That I saw with Gert pulling up, it will give it a window to turn north. But Lee did exactly what Irma did. It went from a category 1 to category 5 overnight. Because the Atlantic is so hot, there's so much energy it can pull. And it pulled it. And a lot of people started getting nervous. And then the question was, are we hurricane ready? And the answer is no. We are not. Yes, on paper, a lot of things are ready. A lot of procedures are ready. So we know what we got to do at the shelter. We know what we got to do on the road. We know what the police got to do. We know what the fire department got to do. But are we ready? Do we have the personnel? Do we have the equipment? The answer is no. Is the infrastructure ready? The answer is no. Look, we don't have one water pump other than a 6-inch discharge down Sucker Garden. We used to have 2 times 36 inches and 1 time 24. So in reality, we had 96 inches to suck water out of the salt pond, throw it in the Rolandus Canal. 96 inches of intake. Today we got 6, but we ready. I honestly, if we have 6% of the capacity we had before, we are not ready. If you think you're going to open Great Bay when the waves are coming in from the south, you're going to flood the place. We are not. That's what Rolandus Canal was for. And it seems that those that replace me have no clue. But I know those under those that replace me know exactly what to do and how to do it. But you see, nobody don't want to do nothing no more because nobody want to take blame. Because anytime something goes wrong, it's the subordinates that did it, not the bosses. You know, when I look at the manpower at the police, they're not ready. They need more people to help them. We saw what happened the last time. We saw what happened. Do they have vehicles? No. Sometimes at night, there's 1 patrol on the road. 1. Are we ready? No, we are not. The fire department don't have our pumps. Their pumps ain't working. The early warning system that 4 years ago had to come still in here. Now I just saw a tender. Well, you know, listen. Do we have fuel reserves? Nobody's talking about that. But do we have fuel reserves? Again, water. What's going to happen with the water reserves? Because we normally shut down the plant 2 days before the storm comes. And we got 3 days of storage. Which means in the first 2 days, either you're going to cut off the people from water, or they're going to use the storage, weakening the tanks that they can get damaged, like what happened in Irma. So again, the questions are we truly ready? All the Vroomy equipment that came in on the Karel Doorman in 2017, how much is still working? Because these questions are not being answered, the only thing I can say is we are not ready. On paper, yes. I will not take that away. I know VNE came down here and wrote all the procedures. And I'm sure everybody is trying their utmost to put on a brave face. But sometimes you also got to tell the people the situation we found ourselves in with the last rainfall. And then there was all kind of crying and, oh, why we so bitter and beaten up on them because they're out here in the rain working. That's your damn job. That's your job. I worked for 24 years, and whenever there was weather, we were out there working. The difference is we don't wait till it flood to clean it. That can happen. Mother Nature is unpredictable. But don't not do something for 6 months and then come and bawl when people call you out. Oh, they're picking on us. Please, man. You know better. Do better. Again, had Lee come, we were in serious trouble because we were not ready. Are we really telling our people that some people are too big to prosecute? On Friday last, I read an article in the Antilliaans Dagblad of Curaçao where the public prosecutors of Curaçao said they will not charge Ansari for now as they don't have enough capacity to go after him. Now, I hear a lot of BS in my life, but this one got to be high up on that list because this is craziness. You are telling me that you cannot prosecute Ansari because he's too big. I know for a fact, because we read it in the newspaper, that you went after notorious gang leaders because of liquidation of people and all kind of things. You were in Dubai and Santo Domingo, all over you was. But this partner, Ansari, sitting in Houston, in his villa, embezzled 1.2 million guilders. The courts convicted the man. And he's too big to go after? You don't have the capacity? Sir, who are you all talking to? You all get 25 million euros every year to so-called fight cross-border criminality. In my case, you all reach all the way in America to do all kind of investigations and then come back with a sour face. But he too big. The same way you ask for international Rechtshulp, why don't you ask the FBI to help you? He embezzled the money, sir. Or is it that the Dutch were instructed by a higher power than them that he's off limits because he's a big financial contributor to certain groups? What is it exactly? I don't understand that the Dutch are willing to force a 600 million euro loan on the people of Curaçao and Maarten because they can't charge Ansari because he's too big. Well, let me tell you something. If he's too big and your bosses told you you're not to touch him, otherwise, you know, all your United Nations functions that you always was so happy to take, you will not get, then pay the damn 600 million yourself, Holland. Pay the 600 million to Enya, and when Enya win their case against Ansari, be it 10, 20, 30 years from now, they pay you back. There's no interest on that loan then. Because you are so concerned, you must help these 30,000 pensioners. Yet you want to break the backs of the countries where these people live. Because you, Holland, refuse to go after Ansari. You all. This is geopolitics. This ain't got a damn thing to do with not going after him. America told you he ain't getting touched. And there ain't a damn thing you have to do about that. So come with all your BS about capacity, because you have capacity for everybody else. Except him. So please, stop lying to people. At least have that common decency. Just a little bit. Because we too can see what you are seeing. It is unfortunately, but it's a reality now, that if you're protected by a third party, they will not go after you. I hope they prove me wrong and they go after Ansari. Because if that happens, two things happen. The 1.2 billion, he has that on some bank account someplace. It can be put back, telling us that they get $100 million. Okay, fine. What about the rest? What about the other $550 million? Where's that piece? Tell us when you get that, so we know we get back the money. Because this is a joke. A complete joke. What's happening here? Telling us, because of who he is, we can't touch him. This is ludicrousy, people. And then St. Maarten's people must be punished to take a loan. And if you don't take it, I'm going to jack up the interest rates. Man, take the interest rate and shove it where it don't shine. You got to be crazy. Here, St. Maarten needs to take a stand. Enough is enough. Listen, I don't have a problem with bad spending and all those things, that we're responsible for our loans. But this is BS. You're going to tell me you're going to prosecute the man and I must take the loan, otherwise you're going to shaft me for the liquidity loans, which you should have given us? Like how the charter says, Article 38. Because that's the charter now you want to use to lend me money to go clean up in your mess. A mess that happened under the central bank eyes and nobody ain't getting prosecuted here. Everybody walking free. I see 2 lists on Facebook last night. I know of 3 of those people in St. Maarten, totaling close to 14 million, if not more. And nothing happening. Well, we ain't serious. The courts put their name there, and I didn't put a name there. The courts put their name there and said that these people were paid and they didn't even do work for the companies. But they were paid on behalf of the companies. This is crazy. This is crazy. But then again, you're coming after politicians and you're preparing all kind of things. All right. Remember, we're going to continue playing this game until it backfires. And then we're going to start crying. Then you get statements like, Joint Court President and Chief Prosecutor urge MPs to pass criminal procedure codes. You know why? Because right now, the way they're doing the investigations, they're using the draft criminal procedure code, which is illegal. Which means they can't use the evidence. That's what this is about. But we're going to get to that a different time. Not today. Let me talk about GEBE. GEBE and our people. Now I understand the policy here, that if you use electricity and water, you pay for it. I understand that. GEBE should have also had a contingency plan in place for whenever its systems go down or they get infected, because you're going to get a virus too, that people can pay and receive their invoices. Now, this discussion, or what I'm going to be talking to you about, is a discussion I had with a senior former GEBE employee who knows what he's talking about. We're now 18 months further since the system went down due to a ransomware hack, and the questions is, what are you doing? Every month, religiously, GEBE reads the meters every month. It means they know what your consumption is. They also know what your bill is. They know it. Because they have the month before and this month. They subtract them and they get your consumption for electricity and water. They know what the rate is. They know what the fuel clause is. So they have your bill. They have it. The problem is they ain't processing it. And for whatever reason that is happening, I don't know. So let me come with a simple proposal. A simple proposal. We have what? 20, 30 administration offices here on this island. Every client in GEBE has a number. Every client has a number. So you take the number and you give that to an administration office with the readings. Let's say one fellow went in District A, you take all the readings from District A, you give it to Company A. That company, for every meter reading or for every client reading, whatever it is you want to do it, you make a spreadsheet. You make an Excel sheet per client. Beginning, end, so much, fuel clause, so much, so you multiply, you want to multiply by 100 times so much, and then the rest times that, whatever. The same stuff you are using, an administration office can do for you. And when that is finished, they give you that back. All calculations have been made now by an administration's office. They will charge you, what, 5 guilders per bill? That means you're losing 5 guilders a bill, GB. That's all. Your administration can't handle it. That is crystal clear. Because if that was not clear, please let it be clear now. A lot of people are still not getting bills. And the concession is clear. You've got to give people a bill. I think the concession of GEBE, the electricity concession, says that. You got to give people a bill. You're not giving them a bill. You're just telling them, pay what you used to pay. No! No, it doesn't work so. A lot of people go along with it. And then they realize they ain't there for 3 weeks in their house and their bill still comes the same way. This is a problem. This is going to be a serious problem. Because you all have a monthly fuel clause calculation. You have it monthly. Why are you not doing this? This is not going to cost you an arm. You paid millions for all these technical fellas to come down here and tell you what was wrong and what wasn't wrong and who might have done what and who didn't do what. The one thing you did not do was fix your billing system so that the people that have to pay you have a document in their hand. Businesses have to make their final tax filings. And water and electricity is a cost of doing business. They don't have the bills to show. When they get audited and they ask them, where are bills? Well, GEBE tell me pay what I have to pay. Yeah, that's fun, you know, but that's BS. You see, right now all over the place, you're reading the papers. Yeah, I think Friday they're gone. SFV going out, they don't start checking people, checking this, checking that. Everybody gonna start going out, checking everything just now. And the people don't have the bills. I don't think that what I just explained you cannot be done. You still have a X amount of people that are not getting bills. What is it? 15%, 20%? What is it? Work on this. Get the bills to the people. Again, this cutting, I understand. I said it just now. If you use it, you should pay for it. But things are rough in Maarten. Things are very, very rough right now in Maarten. And we tend not to understand this. You see, most of the people that are talking, they have a good salary. So when you could pay your bill normally, ain't no problem. But if you have to choose between paying your bill or feeding your family, then we have a problem. And that's the problem many people in Maarten are finding themselves into. So I was, let me not use the word amused. I don't want to be disrespectful. I was taken aback when the Minister of ASR had a meeting with you all, and from the social aspect, he said, let's do 25% instead of 50% because things hard on the people. But he should know. He was waving the victory flag when he gave the people 98 guilders. That ain't even 10%. You see, my problem is this. Telling people to pay 25% with money they don't have, or 50% with money they don't have, or 100% with money they don't have, or you don't cut them, then go ahead and cut them because they can't pay. You got people running all over the island begging other people to help them with money because of bills. And the bills are not 500 guilders. The bills are 5,000 guilders, 10,000. Why did you leave it go so far? Why did you, GEBE, leave it go so far? It's not the people. Don't blame the people, because the people can't cut. The people find themselves in a position But if we had talked about it 6 months ago, or 12 months ago, because we are 18 months further, people. And now, you just simply want to shut it down. We're in the hurricane season, the peak, and we're going to shut it down. Again, I cannot support your decision. While I understand some of it, I cannot. Because I believe there could have been different alternatives. Some of those alternatives are, where are your costs? And how do we work on that cost? And I heard them talk about hedging fuel and all. Listen, we have been trying to hedge fuel so long. At GEBE, they don't work. Because you know who you have to hedge with? Sol. Or you forget. Sol bought Chevron in 2020. So who you hedging if you only have one supplier? What you hedging? You either take it or leave it. Because we don't have no tanks here to put fuel in. So you ain't hedging nothing. So stop going out there telling people about how you're going to hedge fuel. You cannot hedge it if you can't store it. That's the issue. When Julius Lambert 20 years ago said, I'm going to build tanks at GEBE so we can deal with National Petroleum and all of them, they looked at him and asked him if he was crazy. Or he was going to take the money out of a family. That was not to happen. And it never did. All right? So please, when we're talking about these things, at least know your history. Because talking, for the sake of talking, makes me answer you. That's not something I like to do too often. But maybe, just like how Van Hoffelen said, I don't give you a loan because we got to protect the people. Well, give GEBE a loan. No? Give GEBE a loan so it can cover its heavy fuel bills for maybe a year or two and pay you back over 20 years. Give GEBE a loan. Let St. Maarten, just go, it guarantees the airport and all the others. Let the government guarantee it. It ain't going to affect the government baseline right away. Because the government don't have to pay it. GEBE has to pay it. But at least with a loan, they can maneuver and take the pressure off of the people for a while we start doing what the Prime Minister said she was going to do. Alternative energy. Because we ain't doing none of those things. You have to be whapping because it's election time. Not me. I ain't part of those nonsenses. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to show you what it is. And if you don't like it, then you know what to do when the time comes at the poll. You change the future because the future is now. Now, a lot of people see me wearing the yellow shirt, so they swear to God I'm doing politics today. No. The yellow, I'm wearing it as a lion because September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. That's why I'm wearing the yellow. So don't get excited when I wear the yellow that says no, you'll see big and broad. No, don't worry. Because that's where I'm running. You ain't running another place, so don't come and ask me because I ain't running another place. I need people to be a little considerate in Samaritan. When they said Lee might come, people start to chop. I live in St. John's. The amount of greenery they throwed by the bins, and now I can talk as a former public works head. We were always confronted with this craziness, and we would ask people, don't put it by the bins, put it beside the bins. Well, they rack up the bins with greenery that when the truck reaches, it spends a half an hour or more just clearing to get to the garbage. If a hurricane was coming, you would have created a bigger problem than you would even want to think about. We saw the people coming. I even asked the gentleman, well, why are you putting it there? Oh, boss tell me put it there. So he working for somebody. Please, garbage bins are not to throw greenery. Put greenery beside the bin and they'll come and pick it up. They do that, I think, once every week. If I'm not mistaken myself, what I saw in the papers, they pick up bulky waste once every week. Greenery is part of bulky waste. So please, cooperate with the people and do it the right way. Have a little understanding for what we're doing there. Because cutting down trees and just throwing them outside, these are the same trees that are going to end up in the trenches and block the trenches and flood people unnecessarily. So please, remember, it is not a 1, 2, 3. Understand, we got to do what we got to do. Then there was this other issue up in the hill in cul-de-sac. I think the lady, there was a lady that put an article on Facebook. How is this possible? And I mean, a whole chunk of hill, a big piece, a rectangular piece, was excavated clear. And the lady got a message of, I think last week, or the week before, I'm not sure. Mind you, 3-4 months ago, she complained about this thing. She got a message. Yeah, they don't have a permit. What they did was illegal. You serious? Is the ministry seriously doing this? You see it. You saw it happening. She went on Facebook. It was live. This government is a reactive government that when something is said on Facebook, they run and go and do it. Like when the trenches were blocked in Belvedere, when the Great Bay had to be opened. Reactive, not proactive, reactive. So if you saw that, and please, there are half of the inspectors live up that side too. They drive in, going home, they seen it. And nobody said, let me go up there and check what's going on. Because that's not a path was being cut. That was a piece of hillside being cleared. And it was this minister, together with Parliament, that reactivated Article 28.1 of the ERA, which means if you want to demolish, if you want to clear land, anything, no matter that you have a building permit, you need to get permission. To come and now tell us no permission was granted, but they have a building permit, that's utter BS. That's utter BS. That's crazy. So what's going to happen now? Because we were done, Kim Shah, roughing up people. So what's going to happen up there now? Let's see how that works. Because this is ludicrousy. Absolute ludicrousy. Now, Minister, you recall I told you when you write, and I'm talking about Minister Samuel now, when you write about child protection and all those type of things, I'm going to come back and ask you a question. 2 weeks ago, we had a very, very sad situation on this island. A youngster took his life. And while there was a beautiful, beautiful funeral service, and it was a sad situation, the youngster was laid to rest. Families are grieving. Classmates are grieving. But now what? Anybody going to be held accountable? I mean, please, please. I am not trying to create a problem, but I need to understand something better. Who's going to take responsibility why this happened or how this could have happened? Where does the buck stop? Because at this point in time, clearly, this case was known by the school authorities if I follow the Facebook comments and the remarks made by people in the known. Why did we allow this to happen? And why isn't the minister yet taking responsibility for a failed educational system? Who are we going to blame, Minister? The kids, the teachers, the school, the system, the parents, or maybe you, the minister? Why did this child feel that he had no other alternative than to take his life? Is anyone giving any attention to the kids that are now bullies, who will one day realize that they contributed to this young man committing suicide? How are we dealing with the kids that are bullies from the moment they start showing or acting as bullies to the point that their actions cause such a tragedy? Likely one day it will affect them negatively. Minister, what are you doing? Are you even thinking about this? And is this in your program? Is this the child protection you're talking about? Because, Minister, you have to come better than just giving me a little Nancy story in the newspaper. It is very sad for what happened, but it is sadder that this was only a news article instead of an investigation with serious consequences. The minister should have tendered his resignation immediately. Instead, he's running a campaign, a political campaign, now on this, by putting it in the media with what all he's planning to do without one guilder to do it. I only decided to talk about this, not to open any wounds again, but to ensure something is done so we don't have more of such unnecessary losses of precious lives. To his family and friends, I once again extend my sincerest condolences. To the government and society, I need to ask if this is a priority, and will we deal with our kids that are bullies before we have another unfortunate death. Did you know, every Monday I have a little session about what coming for elections. Every week I try to expose a little something. Like I said, the amount of things coming out right now, out of the pipeline, is like a machine gun. Everything coming out of there. Sports, facilities, educational program, capital investment, all kind of things. All kind of things. Except what's really going to happen. Because these are now what I call political propaganda. I won't even touch anymore this Ansari something, because that's a political gimmick. That our country is going to saddle its people with a significant debt because we accept that the prosecutor's office is not taking action in Curacao. But our prosecutor's office here can file charges too. We have victims here, right here. So why they ain't pressing charges? Why isn't our Justice Minister opening her mouth and saying, as government, we want to press charges for the people of St. Maarten? But that they ain't doing. See, this is the problem. We allow all kind of things to happen. And if India don't get the money, the pensioners, all 5,000 of them here in St. Maarten, will lose 80% of their pension and will become welfare recipients. That, though, the government has no issue with. See where I'm going? You prefer to make us beggars or paupers because you refuse to stand and fight the fight that needs to be fought. Hold them accountable in courts. But we don't. I don't understand that. Like I said already, Dutch elections are in November. And depending on the outcome there and the way the books are looking, it's going to be a right government. And right governments normally don't have it good on their agenda for us down here. We need central or socialists. But right, they don't want to hear about us. They are about themselves. We have always been second class. We have never been equal. And don't expect that to happen. Because that is just being a fool. I want to address 4 matters today under the term utter nonsense. The first one is clearly the Prime Minister's doing, where we want to talk about the right to vote. And while I understand that right, the 2 criteria are you have to be Dutch and you have to be living here. Those are the 2 criteria. Now, for our students that live abroad, those that live in Holland or those that live in America, we say we should leave them vote because they are coming back to make the change. And while I understand that, and the ones in America, if they have money, they can fly back home and vote because they are written in St. Maarten. Because they cannot write out of St. Maarten to write into America. Those in Holland, Curacao and Aruba or any other place that is in the Dutch Caribbean, they must write out to write in over there. So they cannot vote because they are not written in. We want to change that and say, no, we should do that. But if you're going to change that, well, what about all the other Samaritans living all over the place? Are you going to also make that a change? Because let's ask ourselves this question. How many students that go abroad come back home? Ask yourself the question and come with statistical data before you answer. I would say not even half come back. They get a better job in the Netherlands, they're staying up there, they're living up there. They get a better job in the States, they're staying there. They are not coming back home to work for Peter and under other people. They're not going to do that. So again, what about people that have residency here? Vote. That's what the Prime Minister wants to do now. She says it should have some consideration. The only thing that means is that to vote in St. Maarten, you don't need to be Dutch then. That's what she's saying. Because if those people are long-term residents, why are they not Dutch? They live in here 30, 40 years. Why are they not Dutch? Let them nationalize. Or is it that they don't want to give up their passports? Because St. Maarten is not really their home. They still believe that where they were born, that's home. And they ain't giving up that passport. Then it's a problem because our Dutch law says you can't have dual nationality. You have to give up your nationality to get another nationality, to get a Dutch nationality. That's the law. So you see the problems that we are now creating for ourselves? There's no need for that. It's utter nonsense. Because again, at the end of the day, it's either you are Dutch or you're not. It's like telling people in America, you all come over in droves from Mexico, we're going to let you vote. So you go vote in a Mexican person. St. Maarten, 30% is born here, maybe 35. The rest have Dutch nationality. Now we want to change the playing field altogether. And say, well, if you have been living here for more than X amount of years, you can vote. Madam Prime Minister, this is utter nonsense. You are now creating a totally unbalanced playing field in politics. You are asking that outsiders that don't even carry a nationality decide who sits in office. I think you need to go back and understand what the law truly says. Now, I touched the educational system and I had to go back to it because I don't know why the minister believes that after 4 years of doing nothing, he can come with one newspaper article, outline the whole agenda that he had to do for 4 years that passed, without putting a quat extra on the budget. You got to really, really be joking. I don't know what else to take out of it. I know you surely are not serious because you have tried, to my understanding, and with the newspaper ads that I saw, you are replacing the professionals you have in position right now to put in other people. And I'm asking myself, why? Are they not doing their job? Or are they the ones that are telling you, Minister, you have no clue what the hell you're talking about? Please don't do this. So you decide you're going to change. If that's it, just say so. I think the last thing that I was going to touch, I think I went deep enough already into the matter when I explained my case, so I will leave that for another time. So, we now have the Minister Tia once again going down a road to take away job opportunities from local Dutch citizens. Today is the one day they can go and sign up, mind you, and I said they. To get a bus license or a taxi license, one of the qualifications is you must be Dutch. You must be a Dutch citizen. They changed that now. Only today, 9/11, only today, we're going to have a terrorist move where we're going to tell permanent residents that they can get bus and taxi too if there was a help driver. Now listen to me carefully, Minister. I don't know if you even understand what the hell you're talking about. The help drivers were brought in for people that were ill for a period of time, or maybe even became, they couldn't drive no more, but that was their source of income, so they would get a help driver. That's what help drivers were for. If that was misused, then fix that. Then go fix that. Don't come now talking about you're giving the help drivers the opportunity to register for bus and taxi licenses. I ain't talking about G&T, because that's a different story. It's the bus and taxi I'm looking at. Because the bus market is overloaded. The taxi market is overloaded. The associations have told you this. But it's election time, and you know, you're always like how you tell me, but I ain't running. What are you worrying for? Jacko, you're representing a party. Okay? You ain't deciding anyway. You got people deciding for you already. So stop your stupidness about, oh, I ain't running, so I just doing what's good for this country. No, you're not doing what's good for this country. You're doing what's good for those that are telling you what you got to do to ensure they could get votes. Every 4 years, we always have this stupidness about bus and taxi licenses being given out. And while I can understand you want to help people, this is the wrong way about going about it. This is the wrong way. Because if you give all those help drivers now a bus license themselves or a taxi license, the same people that had help drivers go and ask for a new set of help drivers. While if you have licenses for bus and taxi, then why are those not going to be given to Dutch citizens? Why are we going to walk away from that? You're sounding just like the Prime Minister. Now we want to make permanent residents voters. Now you want to make permanent residents bus and taxi drivers. Again, if it was not regulated, like I know it is, I wouldn't have said nothing. But it is regulated and it says Dutch alone. Now you have decided to add in 1 day alone, they can register. You add in that permanent residency can also get it. That, sir, is utter nonsense. And I hope you understand what you're really doing. But then again, I know you said before you were going to give out licenses. You just now found a different way to think you're going to fool us to do this. But it is clearly not your forte. Today, let me close with a few things. I was wondering what was happening with the curtains this election. I know the Prime Minister said that the Council of Ministers had agreed to take it down. Then you started hearing certain things about the up party saying, no, we don't agree with that. People have their privacy, etc., etc. So I'm just waiting on the law to see when the law gonna come. That the curtains gotta come down. Nobody is saying anything anymore, so we'll see. I don't want to jinx it, but I don't think it's coming. For 2 years while I was not in Parliament because of this faulty constitution, I have asked our government on many occasions to please not find an excuse to not legalize weed or the tolerance policy so that our people, especially the younger generation, stay out of jail and still have a good, clean police record so that they can still get a job and hopefully an education. But it seems that we prefer to keep our people as beggars because absolutely nothing was done to make any kind of move to create the tolerance policy so that if you're caught with an X amount of weed, you will not be thrown on the ground, shackled, prosecuted, and locked up. You will be told that you can continue walking. I don't understand. The other countries, we read about it in the papers all the time. Listen, I am not writing these things. These things are being written. The U.S. Virgin Islands has agreed to tolerate the use of weed. The BVI does it, so both of them above us doing it. St. Kitts does it. Antigua does it. St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent, they are all doing it. You know who ain't doing it? We ain't doing it. Millions will be made. We know that a pillar in the tourism industry is weed. Create a damn hotel where they can smoke the weed around the pool. It's gonna be the fullest hotel on this island. But all we want to talk about is, oh God, when they get sick. But they're getting sick now anyway. But we ain't doing nothing about that anyway. So why are we trying to block the boys on the block? These boys grow and sell. And when we catch them, we lock them up. And instead of us now trying to ensure that they grow controlled, they sell controlled, and they pay taxes controlled, so they can have a decent living. We opt not to do a damn thing. We look for companies in Canada where we could get a little chip on the side. Man, listen, we go either stop this thing or you're going to expose this whole damn racket. This is nonsense. All right? Help the damn people. Because I can tell you something, you know. When times get rough and they can't do nothing, this rob, they're going to rob. And then we won't cry. And we all believe he's bad man and we own thing. But it is the little damn fool that's going to take out a bad man. I'm begging of you as government. Please, get off of that stupid horse you're riding and take care of people's business. Instead of playing along with all kind of craziness, help the people. Jesus, man. What is it if somebody can sell weed and get rich? What's wrong with it? What? If it's legal, what's wrong with it? We are allowing people to tell us, don't do it. But in Holland, they're doing it for 50 years. And they have become billionaires. But we these little stupid monkeys down here in the Caribbean, we can't do it. We ain't good enough. They got to come down and do it for us. And we the damn fools to allow them to do that every friggin' time. I ain't part of that game. I have said it before, and when I get back into Parliament, that's going to be one of the first things. We're going to fix it once and for all. They either going to get on board or they could get their ass out of the country. That's how I see it. That's how I see that. I am sick and tired of having to bend over because those that we have in power refuse to do something because they're cowards, nothing else. In the past, when I pointed out things of wrongdoing and serious concerns in tender procedures of the Vromi ministers, many cried foul, using fake Facebook accounts and names and asked why I picking on a little boy, seeing what all I was accused and convicted of. Well, the exposing has continued. I realize others have now taken it to a much higher level than me. They have now started showing documentation, clearly showing family gain and serious wealth increases that have shown us what happens for lands and big fortune that they have amazed since getting into office. I didn't do this, but it was done. Facebook, WhatsApp, full of the stories. And those stories are factual in the sense that they're showing the buildings. And I like what a gentleman said on Facebook. Don't worry with the messenger. Worry with the message. See, all I came at me. I am the messenger. But the message was true. And look where we are today. We have a Minister of Finance even drawing little blue planes and putting it in a garbage bin that wasn't picked up, and it looked horrible. And that was his friend, the Minister of Romi's work. He's responsible for that. But it shows you where we are today. And this ain't going to stop, you know. This will only get worse as elections go on. That is critical and clear. The CFT message that we should not take money from India for India should be very seriously taken. And Van Hofland could run her mouth about she taking warning, and the signs are very clear. Van Hofland should shut her mouth, because she's making us and future generations go into depths that we cannot pay for. And I hope and I pray that those 15 parliamentarians in there right now, including the one that said God sent him, that you all vote against this damn craziness. We cannot afford the India loan. I don't care what nobody says. We can't. Believe me, we cannot. You know, I want to leave you with this thought. With all this campaigning going on, with all the non-transparency, the lies, the controversies, you need to think about the country now. Not about the people, but the country. Because people change, but the country doesn't. A lot of people will leave here, others will come. But the country remains. And this country needs protection. This country needs to be taken serious now. This country is at the verge of tipping into a spiral that it will never get back out of for the next 50 years. We got to be careful. We really, really need to be very, very careful. And because there's an election 3-4 months down the road, a lot of people are going to do things just for the facts to get elected. And yes, there needs to be a solution for the pensions. Those 5,000 people have a right to have their pensions safeguarded. And those that did not safeguard it was the Central Bank of Curacao and Samoa. They were the people that looked over what was happening. And if they say, well, yeah, you know, they had certain rights to do certain things, then they're the ones responsible for insurance companies. And if we are going to say, put it now by Curacao and Samoa people, then Curacao and Samoa people should hold the central bank accountable. And maybe the central bank have assets that we're going to have to use to safeguard those pensions. And Mr. Doran Bosco said what the hell he wants. It ain't he damn pension. He's still collecting $1 million per year, which is not in line with the laws that we had passed. That the top income earners are 130% above the Prime Minister. Prime Minister's about what? 240, 300,000, 350. The max he could have was 450, 500. He got $1 million. So, sir, you should hush your mouth, telling us what we can do to safeguard our people. And if it means You have to use some of that gold and put it as a collateral by the Dutch until the case finish with Ansari. So the money could come, then let the Dutch take the gold, send you the 600 million, you bail out India as central bank. That's how you did Hero and all those others. And when you get back the money from the court case, send it back to Holland, take back your gold. All right? Solution given. But we need to stand up and do what the hell we got to do in Maarten. Because you know what we are? Set of damn cowards. We need to grow a sack, cojones, and stand up and say, no more. It's over. I ain't playing this game of hide and seek because some of us are afraid to say what needs to be said. Well, I will do it. Never been afraid, never fell on my mouth. And some people might say, oh, he full of that, and he full of that. That's okay. But at least I saying it. Most of you just hush your mouth and suck your lollipop, like you've always been told to do. So let me just move on, because empowerment of our people is what I stand for, and the party I run on stand for. I don't believe in giving people a fish. I believe in teaching people to fish. And that's why I wanted certain things to be done. I hope within the next 2 weeks that our manifesto will be finalized and that we can start talking to you all about what's in there. Always remember this, people. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And that's what has happened for the past 4 years, no matter how you twist it or turn it. Please share my podcast and also like and subscribe to my YouTube page. Have a great week ahead. Bounces out. Take care.